All right, I'd like to welcome everyone inside the Garden Center here in Alexandria, Minnesota for the second annual Midwest Youth Championships. I'm Darren Cini with ndbowling.com, joined by Ken Fletcher once again. Ken, welcome to the set.
Thank you, Darren, very much. It's great to be back in Alex as always, and we're in for a fun day today, I think.
Yeah, a lot of money is up for grabs, and let's see what we have going on here. If you guys are listening back home, please chime in on the chat. Let us know that everything works all right, since we have a little bit new equipment going on here today, so I want to make sure everything's good. And as everyone has been waiting for, welcoming us into the booth today is PBA Hall of Famer Walter A. Williams Jr. Walter, welcome to Indy Bowl TV.
Thank you. It's going to be an interesting day.
Yeah.
We got some great talented kids here bowling. I bowled a couple last night in the Pro-Am. Watched them a little bit yesterday, and they're good.
Yeah, they're very good. I wish I could bowl like these kids when I was younger.
I wish I could bowl like that even now.
I think we'll all agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you arrived in Alex, what, yesterday or the day before?
Yesterday afternoon. I flew up yesterday morning and arrived in the afternoon and signed some autographs, sold some stuff, and we bowled the Pro-Am last night. I didn't bowl very well last night at Pro-Am. Rather disappointing, but that happens.
Yeah, that's okay.
We had some fun, though.
Let's see, for those out there who know Walter, let's put up a little bit of a bio here. Doesn't hit everything. It's mainly your PBA statistics. I know you have over 100 total now, don't you? Between regionals, PBA 50, and stuff like that?
Yep, everything total combines 102. I've got 47 national titles, 11 senior national titles, and I think 32 regional titles and 11 senior regional titles. I think that adds up.
Yeah, very nice.
Something pretty close to that, at least.
Yeah, it might be off by one or two, maybe one more somewhere in there. I don't know.
Yeah, and you're fresh off a senior masters win earlier this summer.
Yeah, a couple months ago up in Las Vegas, and I just finished the senior tour. And for those of you who missed it on Extra Frame, I'm sure you can watch it on YouTube. The final five, we had a few titles.
Yeah, that recent one was crazy.
Yeah, it was Pete Weber and Amleto Monicelli was seated second, Norm Duke, Parker Bone, and myself.
Yeah, that's star-studded final five right there.
Yeah. I won't tell you what happened.
Yeah.
In case you don't know.
Yeah, we'll just tell everyone to go watch it in the archive on Extra Frame. How about that? All right, and new this year, we have an in-booth cam, so you guys can actually see who I am. Our ndbowling.com fans have never actually seen Ken or myself, because we kind of have a little bit more of an upgraded system.
That's not a dangerous thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, welcome everyone inside the booth. We have Ken Fletcher to my left. Of course, Deadeye over here on the right. If you guys are in the chat room today, you guys want to ask Walter any questions, feel free to do so. We'll try to get to the ones we can. And again, if you haven't already, please head on over to our Facebook page. Hit the like button, go subscribe to our YouTube page if you guys are watching right now, and follow us on Twitter so you can stay up to date.
This is pretty sad. I'm trying to put a connect thing on my personal fan page, and I can't figure out how to do it on my phone. Is that sad?
No, everything looks good if you hit next.
I did. I hit next.
And now hit publish. There you go.
That's what it was. I did hit publish. I was hitting the other next and whatever, and it just kept going back to the same thing. I'm like, well, that's not doing me any good.
Well, in your defense, before they used to let you pick when you did all that. Now it's you hit post and you have to say when to publish it instead of it just automatically publishing it like it used to. So
right.
All right.
Well, they're going to make it a little more challenging with the ABCD, figuring out who's who, but I guess we got to pay attention.
Yep.
But it looks like there's a bit of an outside shot here. I see a lot of guys playing up the outside first arrow. Looks like a fair amount of urethane being thrown out there.
Yeah, and with that, let's take a look at the pattern we're bowling on today.
B player on 13. Came out from Maryland after talking to some of the kids to bowl this tournament. So
It's quite the travel to just bowl this tournament, I guess. But
yeah,
when you're talking 5,000 for first, it'll bring in people.
5,000 for first is pretty impressive.
Well, I gotta see what's going on here because
nice shot there.
You're offline.
Yeah, it appears we're not. What's going on here?
No active stream.
It was healthy. Yeah, it says it's good. It says it's not.
So are they not hearing us then? Since we're offline.
Maybe I have a different one. I don't know. Let's refresh this.
Check the connection or something.
No, it is live. Nope, it's offline.
It's offline.
Interesting. It says we're good here. Yeah, we're.
Oh, nope, it's live.
No,
There we
resumed.
go.
Okay. Well, there. Let's see where we're actually at.
Well,
It's.
Jerome says it works
Well,
good,
we're
so.
just up to 4-6. Now we're offline again.
Interesting. Always technical difficulties every time you do something here.
A lot of fun.
Well, let's just do this. Let's do it the hard way.
Check it out on your phone, huh?
Yep, let's see if it loads.
When it gets down to the bracket point,
Yeah, it says we're offline, so.
Go to Video Manager. And analytics will be available after 24 hours. Awesome.
Perfect, yeah. At least we'll be able to see. All right, well, let's go back to our live streaming here. Maybe we have to do the re-output again. All right. Well, if you guys are listening, we're gonna quickly go back on here. Might create two different files, but.
Still saying offline.
Okay, and I hope we're back. A few little problems there. Evidently, YouTube does not enjoy ndbowling.com today.
Shame on them.
Yeah, at any rate, we are finishing out here the first game. Once again, it's Darren Cini for ndbowling.com alongside Ken Fletcher and PBA Hall of Famer Walter Ray Williams Jr. in the booth with us. Sorry about that brief hiccup. Hopefully that's all we have today.
That would be good.
Looks like we have some pretty good games going here on our featured pair.
Yeah, on the pair next to them, they have a 230, a 200, and a 170. And on this pair, we're going to have some nice games. Oop, that one didn't hook up. Still going to be a 230 game. That's not bad.
And looks like Josh Craig's kind of saving his game here. Going up here in the 10th, working on a four-bagger.
Bail it out for 200. That's a... maybe not. But 190 is still not bad after that.
I call that the ND Bowl TV jinx. We do that quite a bit.
Do you? You're not the only commentators.
And Josh Craig's out of our hometown, ndbowling.com's hometown here, Minot, North Dakota. Age 19, high game 300. ND State Youth All Events, two-time high school bowling most valuable bowler.
Very nice.
So a 195 for him. That's a pretty good save. Half the battle in these tournaments is grinding out games like 190s and 2-0s. So.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
I'm
up
not sure
here
the
on
pronunciation here. Is that Layan?
Yeah, Tristan Layan we'll go with. Age 18, Perry Hall. I want to say that's Maryland.
Yep, that's. I think that's the kid that they were talking about that decided to come out after talking to some of the other kids from Junior Gold. So
very nice.
Having a nice game, except he missed a couple single pins. That's one of the things, you know, that some of the kids and even the guys that bowl on tour could be a little better at is picking up their single pins. I'm unfortunately not good enough to miss single pins, and that's what happened last night. I missed a couple single pins in the prime. I didn't bring my plastic ball, which I normally do, and just to kind of save weight, you know, travel light.
Yep.
Even though I throw the ball fairly straight, I don't throw it dead straight, and the plastic ball just goes that much straighter. And that's what I teach the kids, you know, because I do work with some of the kids, and I say, throwing a big hook, I got no problem with that. I wish I could do that. I throw a little bit of a hook, but learning how to throw the ball nice and straight at your spares is just key. One thing I've never heard anybody ever complain about is lane conditions being exactly the same.
Sure.
They're always changing.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're changing, you have to make adjustments if you hook the ball. If you throw the ball straight, you don't have to make adjustments. So that's one thing I like to kind of teach some of the your players that I help coach is, you know, throwing the ball as straight as you can at pretty much most of your spares. A few of the spares I do hook at, like the 2-8 combinations, maybe the 1-2-4, something like that. But pretty much everything else, I'm going nice and straight at 3, 6, 9, 10. That's about the only other one I'm going to hook at. And that's kind of a 50-50 chance anyway. I think it's, you know, throwing straight at it or hooking at it, you get about the same amount of chance. And it's the biggest thing is going different lane conditions, especially what these kids are going to be doing. Is, you know, you see different patterns, and the middle of the lane might hook, it might not hook, and you really don't know until you start bowling on it. And then as the day goes on, the lanes are going to change. So, you know, you might expect something, and obviously going from one pair to another pair. I bowled a tournament not too long, about a week and a half ago up in Ohio, Bowling Green, Ohio, senior regional, and for some strange reason, lanes 1 and 2 hooked way more than all the other. I ended up using a plastic ball for my strike ball.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, that hooked so much, and I actually shot a 260. You know, so it was just, when you hit those kinds of pairs, you know, if you hook the ball at your spares, it's going to just take off like crazy. And just throwing the ball straight at your spares definitely makes a big difference, and I think is key. And I see players that hook at like the 2-pin, the 4-pin, the 7-pin for the right-handers. And on, you know, certain lane conditions, yeah, you can have extra room for error, which is what we all want to have. But again, if the lane conditions are different, you don't have that error. and all of a sudden you're going to have negative error because you're not the lane conditions are different. So.
And good advice for all you youth out there watching. So
and adults too.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest complaints I get is how do you pick up a 10-pin? It's like, actually, 10-pin's very simple. Throw it straight. Learn to throw it straight. And most people don't realize how much they hook the ball at their spares. And the easiest way to find out is bowl on a strip lane.
Yep.
You bowl on a strip lane, you're going to see your ball hook. I don't care if you use a plastic ball or a reactive ball. It's going to hook, and you're going to see how much that ball's hooking. And then you can learn to throw the ball straighter. You don't have to throw it dead straight, but throwing it straighter definitely helps. And, using a plastic ball, a plastic ball goes way straighter than a urethane ball. And I see, guys use urethane and reactives. Norm Duke's one of the best players on tour, and he uses a reactive. He uses his strike ball to shoot his spares. And he's pretty good, but I remember seeing him down in Oklahoma this year, and the first pattern was 32 feet. Well, 32 feet hooks. And he's using his reactive ball to shoot at his spares, and he had a little trouble shooting at his spares because it would actually hook. And so he's really having to pay attention, to make sure it goes straighter. And he missed several spares, and unfortunately kind of hurt himself and withdrew after a couple games. But it was like, for somebody who's a really, really, really good spare shooter normally, and he, like I said, he does throw it fairly straight, but he doesn't throw it dead straight. You get some guys like E.J. Tackett, he throws it. He's got like 3 revs on it and throws it 25 miles an hour.
He throws it hard.
Yeah, Sean Rash, there's Tommy Jones. A bunch of those guys are really good at throwing the ball really straight. And they've realized that, hey, you take a lane out of play and just throw it at it,
So good advice there. Really quick, let's go over the format we have going on here. We had, I think, 3 or 4 different qualifying rounds between Friday and Saturday. We're separated into boys scratch, girls scratch, and handicap divisions. We're paying out, the boys open division is paying out $5,000 for first, all the way down to $1,000 in fifth. So pretty good payout there in the boys scratch division. On the girls side of things, they're paying 8 spots with $4,000 going to the top and $2,500 to second. And in handicap, it's $2,500 for first, $1,500 for second. So a lot of good scholarship money to be won out there. Currently, we are in the cashers round. So after the 2 qualifying days, Friday and Saturday, they cut to the top. I'm going to say 1 and 4 is how it ended up being.
Yeah, and roughly, I think they said 57 entries I saw in one of the divisions. So.
And what they're going to do now is they're going to bowl 4 games this morning, and they're going to cut to the top 10 in the boys scratch division. I believe it's going to be different in the other ones, depending on entries. And then
they're also adding the scores from today to what they had previous rounds.
So everything carries over.
So I think the 6 games plus the 4 will be the 10-game cut.
And what I understand is the top 2 finishers after this cashers round in each division will be automatically seeded the 1 and 2 in the step ladder. And then following that, they're going to go to a bracket where they have, is it a 2-game match?
I believe you said it's a 1-game match for each one after that.
And then that'll break down who's into the step ladder.
Yep,
so,
and then just the final 2 go into the step ladder.
So we are currently in game 2 of that cashers round. Again, if you guys have any questions for Walter, please go visit the chat room. We'll try to get to as many as we can. And if you haven't already, please share the live stream. After we had a few hiccups there, but everything seems to be working good now. Just took a good reset of everything and should be good. So Walter, when did you get your start in bowling? Like where did it all start?
Well, I grew up in California. Basically,
we'll go back. Yeah, now we're back.
Okay. And up here on the right lane, we got Kyle Baker, who last night in the Pro-Am shot 780, where I managed to shoot a whopping 602.
Yeah, and he even had a 300 game, so.
Yeah. All we need to do is get some scores here, and we'll be going. I mean, as far as their standings. I'll have to see if Nevin can do that for us.
Okay, we have just got confirmation here from Ken that it is back and running.
That's good.
Well,
The internet's kind of going in and out, folks, so if you're with us, we do apologize. A few technical difficulties, which is bound to happen from time to time. All right.
Whoops. One danger of playing that outside line, once in a while it goes into the gutter. Not something guys want to do, but when that's the place to play, that's kind of the danger of it.
Yeah, the risk you take trying to play out there, but when that's where the friction is, sometimes you got to do it.
Sorry, we're just trying to make sure this stream works well. So if you've just joined us, which some of you may have, again, live coverage from the Midwest Youth Championship. We're joined in booth by PBA Hall of Famer Walter A. Williams Jr. If you guys have any questions for him, please visit the chat room. Make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and hit that subscribe button. We have a few more shows coming up this season. I think our next one will be the end of October, and Moorhead, Minnesota for the ndbowling.com Kickoff Classic. Another good tournament. Hopefully a lot of you come out and bowl that one. And again, a big thanks to the folks at Emanite. They're the official bowling ball sponsor of the High Plains Bowling Network. And we'll also like to thank our sponsors for this event, which helped raise the insane prize fund in my mind. Over $5,000 going to the Boys Open winner, $4,000 to the Girls Open winner, and the $2,500 top prize to the handicap division. I'd like to thank the folks at Bremer Bank, Viking Coca-Cola, the Host Center, Garden Center Lanes, and the good food there at Fat Daddy's Bar and Grill. If you haven't had that, please try them out.
I had some of that last night.
It's good stuff. The Broadway Ballroom Event Center and Catering, that's also located here on site. The fine folks at Sunopta Food Shelf. There's an event that Nevin also runs here in November, the Sunopta Sweeper, which has had pretty high success in the last couple of years. And then the local area, Alexandria USBC. Again, we're bowling on a relatively tough pattern here, 2.94 to 1. Looks like 41 feet.
I see a lot of the kids playing, way outside. I didn't try playing that far out last night. Maybe I should have. But I didn't bring a urethane ball with me. Not that I hooked the ball like these kids, but I do have a little hook, and it just seemed like that didn't seem like the right place to play. But maybe a little bit of practice or whatever, I probably could have figured out and got comfortable with a good shot out there or something.
Hey, we even saw you throw a two-handed shot out there a time or two, which is good.
Yep.
Well, I asked the kids, I was finishing one game, I said, okay, my field ball, do you want me to bowl one-handed or two-handed? And they all yelled, two-handed, two-handed.
Oh,
I said, okay. I said, I might not get, 5 pins, which, to get 200 game. And I threw it, and I managed to leave a weak 10, but so it doesn't matter if I bowl regular or two-handed, I can still leave a weak 10. I don't have quite the ball speed to be a really effective two-handed bowler. Plus the direction is not what it should be. I mean, I can throw the ball two-handed. I'm just not. I don't practice it. I keep every time I go on tour, I think I got to work on that. I got to work on that. But it takes a lot of work. It's not something that happens overnight. You get it. most of these guys have been doing it for years, and some of these guys have been doing it for 15 or 20 years, and they got a little advantage doing that. They've honed their skills. They're very good at doing that, and I give them credit for it. A lot of old timers are not crazy about the two-handed release, and to me, it's like, hey, they're not using some artificial means to throw the ball. They don't have a ramp. They don't have a machine throwing the ball. They're doing it. So if you bowl two-handed, one-handed, through your legs, backwards, with your foot, I don't care. To me, it's still you doing it. But when you start, if you got a ramp or something, that's a different story. If you've got a mechanical arm or something like that, which one day may happen, where a guy actually has a mechanical arm, and it's like, well, what do? You go a cyborg actually bowling. I'm sure that the Olympics is going to deal with that kind of stuff. Well, they already have the Paralympics where they had guys with artificial legs and stuff. So, but it's a different situation.
Yeah, it's an ever-evolving game, and you've kind of withstood the changes in the game for as many years as you've bowled on tour and the success you've had in doing so, which a lot of people I think talk about how much bowling has changed over the course of.
Well, it's changed, but it hasn't changed. That was a reality back then. You had to play these little track areas, and you didn't want to get in and out of the track area. That was the most effective way to have a small hook with a little bit of hook on it, not a big hook. There were a few guys that did hook the ball a little bit, but for the most part, it was throwing the ball very straight and using a 16-pound ball. Nowadays, I think it's silly for anybody to try to use a 16-pound ball because they don't need to. The balls hit. I use a 15-pound ball. I've used them for almost 20 years. I've been player of the year several times in that period, and I don't hook the ball in excessive amount. In fact, I'm lower rev rate on the national tour, and I'm not as effective as I used to be. But a lot of that comes down to more. My accuracy isn't what it used to be. If I was accurate as I used to be, I'd still be fairly competitive. But I'm just not as accurate as I used to be. That's really what it comes down to, and that's the dangerous combination that the young players have is they got the high rev rates with the accuracy.
All right, so let's quickly take a look at who's on our pair. Looks like we have Cooper Tate up on 14 here, about to throw out a 7-pin. 17.
Where's he from?
Hometown of Hugo. High school, I'm going to say Minnesota.
I'm going to say that must be Minnesota. Oh,
yep.
Missed another single pin.
He made the MJBT All-Star team. 8 Cedar Vale sweeper titles, and Cedar Vale's down in the Minneapolis area. So, yeah, 84th in junior gold. So we have a lot of high finishers in junior gold this year.
Yeah.
Looks like we have, I don't want to butcher many names here.
Kid just bowling to the left of us. Corey just had the front 8 and left a light 7 then.
It's pretty impressive. I don't think I ever got close when I was that young.
Yeah. I still can't get close. I'm 30. But that is why we do this. So
better commentators than bowlers,
yes.
Sorry to say.
That is why I sit here.
We got Jordan bowling over. Where is he from? Park Cottage Grove?
He goes to Grandview University.
Cottage Grove.
Yeah, so I want to say.
I'm assuming that's Minnesota.
Yeah, I believe Cottage Grove is.
Gives him a turkey there. Going to bail out this game.
Yeah, you see a lot of college bowlers up here too. You see a lot of college bowling jerseys out there.
Nice shot for Cooper.
Okay, who else do we have here? Caleb Baker, we mentioned earlier. He shot 300 yesterday in the Pro-Am and did win the Pro-Am, and I think he took home $750 for doing so, and that's in scholarship form. So props to him.
He's getting ready to go to college.
Yeah, so if you go to the Midwest Youth Championship Facebook page, Nevin was live streaming last night. He did talk to Walter and the other pros that were bowling, and also caught the 300 game on there. So if you want to go watch that. Again, I do apologize. We're having a few connection issues here at the bowling center. I don't know if it's related to the weather outside. It was a pretty stormy morning, and a good place to be is in a bowling alley.
Perfect bowling weather.
That it is. We had perfect golfing weather yesterday. Ken and I went and hit 18 holes before we got here.
Shame on you.
And now and now we're here when it's raining and we're doing a bowling show. So all right, we do have a question here. It appears Kim Morris is in our chat. She says, "A day in the life of Walter A. What's it like?
Well,
Tournament prep, stuff like that."
I don't do the same thing every day, and I'm not a real I don't know. I don't do the same thing all the time, so I don't meditate and get into it. You know, every once in a while I might think about what I'm trying to do, but for the most part, I just go about my business and make sure that I'm going to be at the bowling center when I need to be. That's probably my biggest issue is my time management. I'm kind of a very relaxed person in that regards, but I do try to make sure that I'm going to get where I'm going. That's probably one of my nightmares is I keep having those where I just can't get to where I want to get to, and I think part of that's because of my nature. I know myself, and that I'm tardy way too often at things, and trying to make sure I'm get to the bowling center in time for the tournaments. I've never missed an event, but it's just one of those things that I do have an issue with not being on time at some particular things. But in practice, I really don't practice a whole lot. I probably need to practice more. It's one of the reasons why I don't bowl as well as I used to. I do practice a little bit, but when I'm on tour, we bowl 40, 50, 60 games a week. So to me, that's the best practice, and most of that's competitive. And to me, the tournament competition is the best form of practice. So that's kind of how I prepare, is competing. When I feel like I need to work on something, I might go do that. But for the most part, it's not too bad. I just need to kind of hone my skills a little bit and work on that, and repeating shots better. I did adjust my game a little bit earlier this year, worked on my push away so that years ago when my arm swing used to come right near my ankle on the way up, and now I'm probably about 4 inches away from my ankle. So I've kind of lost that leverage, and I was trying to get my arm swing a little bit closer to my leg, but it's still not that close. But I did kind of straighten my arm swing out a little bit because I used to have a little bit of a loop in there, and it's probably still a little bit there, but I think I've straightened it out a little bit. I don't know if that's helping or not, but it feels decent. I've never felt like I've had great balance, but I think I've worked on that a little bit. I think I'm a little better balanced at the line than I used to be, but I'm still not solid like a lot of the younger players are. They really teach a lot of that good stuff where, being solid and being, every shot being the same way, and it makes total sense to me. But I was more of a field player or whatever, and just kind of went out there and threw the ball and managed to repeat shots. And Mark Roth kind of did the same thing, and I think even Dick Weber did. The leg was flying up in the air and kind of stepping off to the side after they threw the shot.
So let's say you're in a tournament on tour, and what's your mental preparation? Like if you're going through a U.S. Open where they're going 60 games, or you're going through a quick qualifying round, does your mental game change, or how do you prepare for that?
Not really. Like I said, I just go out there and I'm not thinking about it a whole lot before I bowl. I might think, well, okay, I'm going to be bowling C squad at the U.S. Open, which last year they didn't re-oil, and I'm thinking, okay, I got to think I'm going to be playing sixth arrow or whatever it is, and kind of getting that vision in my mind. That's about the only time I really start thinking about stuff like that. Or maybe, okay, I think I want to be playing first arrow or whatever, or maybe closer. When it's kind of an extreme angle like that, sometimes like a little mental preparation I might do a little bit, but for the most part I'm not doing anything extra like that. And as far as the number of games, that's really, we're bowling one game at a time, one shot at a time. So if you start thinking, well, God, I got to bowl 60 games and, get it all together, because you got to make the first cut, the second cut, whatever, to get to that point. So,
well, good to know. I think that, speaking for both Ken and myself, we tend to overthink things in tournaments. Either we scoreboard watch or something gets in your head.
I'm a scoreboard watcher, trust me. I like watching the scores and see what's going on. And that may affect me a little negatively at times, but I think for the most part it hasn't. I've done it my whole life, and I've done fairly well. I kind of like to know what's going on. You know, the fact that I'm thinking, okay, do I need to shoot 250? Do I need to shoot 200? You know, but the thing is it doesn't matter. I'm going to go out to do the best I can every single game. You know, I'm not going to go out there and, well, gee, I'm just going to try to hit the head pin and try to get a mark or something, or get an easy mark, because, you know, you can throw a great shot and get a split, and you can throw a bad shot and get a strike. So, but my goal is to throw a good shot every shot and to throw a strike. It's not going to happen, but that's my goal.
We can all agree with that goal.
Yeah, I agree. If I could go out there and just make quality shots every time, I think it'd be a lot easier.
That's a big part of it. I think a lot of people, you know, they kind of get a little bit too much into it. It really comes down to the player. Everybody puts so much credence into the bowling balls and stuff, and the bowling balls are great and stuff, but you know, the player's the one controlling it. You take the top 15 guys on tour, change their ball companies.
They're just as good.
I think they're going to be just as good. There's, you know, it's not like one company has something that the others don't. They all have good stuff. Speaking of, I'm at Brunswick.
Yep.
And I've been with them for a few years, and I was with them for a few years in the 90s. I was Player of the Year several times with them. And they make a lot of good stuff. And they're starting to come out with some stuff that's probably more in tune with the higher average players. And I'm actually having to, you know, I've been using some DV8 stuff because they got some really aggressive stuff the last couple tournaments. Because having a lower rev rate, I'm wanting that aggressive ball to read the lanes and stuff. Even when we bowl on short patterns, I'm amazed at how tight the lanes get when we bowl on even the short patterns. You know, I tend to use aggressive stuff even on the shorter patterns, which just blows me away. It's like I would one day like to have to use a plastic ball.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to be in trouble.
Yep.
You know, so it's kind of interesting. Some of my other sponsors, I got Dexter Shoes.
Yeah, you can see your jersey here.
Yeah, I've got a few. Got Ford Driving Skills for Life, which obviously is a great mix for the junior program here. Anybody who's a teenager working to get their license or already have their license, it's a free program. I went to it a couple years ago, and I bet if they charged it, it would be like a $500 fee. They get like 20 or 30 professional drivers, race car drivers usually, and they're in the cars with you, and they're teaching you a bunch of stuff, how to drift, you know, learning how to you know, go around corners and sliding and stuff like that, and stopping and reaction time, and you know, that obviously impaired driving, drinking and driving and texting and stuff like that where you're not supposed to do. We all know that, but it's a great program, and it's free. It's across the country. They do them all over the place. So check that out. If you're that age, it's definitely worth your while to go check it out. The Ford Driving Skills for Life. I actually have a link on my my fan page.
Okay, yeah. So go find Walter Ray's fan page out there on Facebook.
And
He's got all the links.
Then my other logos, I got Vice and the grips, and then I just signed with Mongoose with the Real Bowlers tape. I'm a big advocate of tape in the ball. I've been, you know, I use a customized thumb from Vice, the Exactification, and even with that, I still have a lot of tape in my ball. Mm-hmm. I probably got, you know, right now I've got like 8 or 9 pieces of tape. I had to modify it a year or so ago because my thumb kind of grew because the tape back then was tearing up my thumb. I started putting some of the thumb protector, the tape on my thumb to protect my thumb, and I actually like it. And I use the silver Real Bowlers tape, and one of the first things I do when I do clinics is how many people use tape. And I get about half people raise their hands, and I say, well, pretty much every pro bowler who uses their thumb uses tape. And there's a reason for that. We do bowl a few extra games, so our thumb's going to change size a little bit more. But if you don't have any tape in your thumb hole and you throw the ball and all of a sudden your thumb starts to grow, what are you going to do? I know what most people do is they go get baby powder, which is bad because it gets on the approach, you slip and fall, and that's not good. And I say, get your thumb hole big enough to put 2 or 3 pieces of tape in there. You can always take the tape out to make your hole bigger, and you can always add tape to make the hole nice and tight. I like my thumb hole nice and tight so that I can actually throw the ball without my fingers. And that allows me to not have to squeeze to hold on to the ball. So if you're having a squeeze, you're taking some of that wrist strength where you can, hit the ball a little bit. And especially in today's game, it just, revs are huge. So learning how to not squeeze the ball and hang on to it that way, it's gonna allow you to get that better rev rate.
See, and I think, like, growing up, one of the hardest things to learn is the difference between having a tight thumb hole to where you don't have to squeeze it, and that thumb hole being able to clear. They're two different things.
Well, and I think that's the other thing. You got to get the right pitch in your thumb hole. Everybody's different. You got to get the right pitch that's going to work for you. And what I tell them, I said, hey, if I start hanging on the ball and it starts going up in the air, it's too tight. I take a piece out. And sometimes it's like I got to take a half a piece out or whatever. So normally I use a 3/4 inch tape, and I've also used a 1/2 inch tape. And so I might change from a 1/2 inch and put a 1/4 in, or take 3/4 out and put a 1/2 inch, or sometimes I might take the 3/4 out and put 2 halves in, or something like that. So it's those little things that kind of trying to find it just so it's just right, and it does change, especially from day to day. In the morning, I'm almost always either adding tape or taking tape out, and as the round goes on, I might have to take that tape out or add a piece or whatever. But usually, it's like add a piece. Take a piece out when you're starting, and then later on you might have to put it back in or something like that. Norm Duke fiddles with his thumb hole probably more than anybody. He's always trying to find that right fit. And I was teasing him one time. He's bowling against me on TV, and he had a 6-bagger, and he's still fiddling with it. I'm like, and I'm like shooting 2-0 or something, and I'm like, wow, really? You got a 6-bagger, and you got a and unfortunately for him, he struggled at the end, and I struck out and beat him. And beat him by 1 pin, and he wasn't real happy with the comment that I made. I was just kidding around. I'm like, wow, man, I mean, you're kicking my ass, and and you're fiddling with your thumb hole, but that's what he does. He's very meticulous on that, and always looking for that right fit and everything. So we're probably lucky that he doesn't always have that.
Yeah, that's true. So then a question for you for the real bowler's tape. This is the gray tape, right?
Yes.
Well,
so silver
gray,
tape,
yep. A lot of people have said over the years, and I've talked to, the Hall of Famers in our area, like Jack Nelson, and he's said that the newer tape, the textured tape, almost feels like 2 pieces of the older stuff that he used to use. But a lot of people, when they get the silver tape, it almost feels more like the older tape they used back in the day.
Well, I think, and that's why I was having issues last year. My understanding is that the company or whatever that was making most of the bowling tape, that the gentleman passed away, and his son took over, and for some reason they got a new epoxy onto the tape, and I think it was bleeding through. The adhesive was bleeding through, and that was what's starting to tear my thumb up. And so the real bowler's tape has a slightly different adhesive. It's very strong though. I mean, I get it in my thumb hole, and when I have to take it out, it's like it takes me 20 seconds to take it out unless you have a knife to take it out. But so it's very adhesive, and it doesn't goo up. In fact, I had a ball that I donated here that I used like 7 years ago with a different company, and and it had some of my old tape in there. And I just took a piece out because it was really tight. So I just took a piece out, and it was gooey.
Really?
The adhesive. I don't know if it was because of the time that's going to happen with old tape or not, but I took it out and it was gooey. And, it's like that's not something you want to have where you take the tape out and it's gooey and you have to clean it out with, a cleaner or something. You want to have a nice, tape that you can put on really quickly and take it off. They also have a blue tape, which is kind of like the black tape. I used to use black tape years and years ago, but because like I said, I used so much tape, it was like, I'm using 15 pieces of black tape. And I was like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I started using the thicker tape, and I got used to it. I liked the texture of it. First I didn't want that extra texture, but I got used to it. And, and I think that's the biggest part, people getting used to it. It's, and there's a difference between tape and the inside of the thumb hole. And that's why I don't want to have more than 3 pieces in there. I don't want to have 2 pieces in there, take a piece out, and all of a sudden I got ball and tape in there. That's a different feel. If I take 1 piece of tape out and I got from tape to ball, that's a completely different feel. I'm going to go from hanging onto it to dropping it, and that's really bad. So I like to have at least 4 or 5 pieces of tape in there. I'm actually making some new molds, my thumb hole, and I'm going to get it to where I need like 5 or 6 pieces of tape, you know, and if I need to, I can get down to 4 if my thumb expands. But I don't want to get to where I'm getting down to 1 or 2 pieces of tape because it just bothers me.
Sure. And I think that happens a lot around this area of the country because it gets so cold in the winter that him and I can both say when we go to tournaments, your hands are so small because it's so cold outside.
Right.
And by the time you're done with the tournament, you're 4 or 5 pieces of tape different than when you started. So you have to have that.
And also the humidity makes a big difference.
Oh, for sure around here.
And what you're drinking and not drinking.
Yeah, nutrition is kind of a big part of the game these days as you get younger, stronger.
And you look at all these kids. I mean, most of these kids are really fit. Wow. Of course, I used to be kind of skinny when I was younger, too.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we have a good game going here.
Yeah, he's the one who just shot 270 the last game.
Let's find him. Do we have a sheet for him, Ken?
Corey?
Oh, yeah. Let me grab
Yeah, we got the sheets over here, Walter.
Okay.
The boys' open ones. Those are the girls, I believe.
The girls in the handicap.
We're in game 3, and that would be those sheets.
All right, so this one's
the 2A.
Corey Balbach out of Mankato.
Okay.
High game 299, which the way he's been bowling, I'm surprised he doesn't have a 300 yet. Averages 199.
Wow.
He's doing pretty good on this pattern.
He must be bowling on sport patterns.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask, what's your average? What's your average? And I'm like, well, it really depends on lane condition.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, you can put me on an easy lane condition. I can average 235, 240. Put me on a tough lane condition. I'm struggling to average 200, 205. And I'd rather average 210, and that'd be the high average, and average 230 and be the 20th.
Yep.
So if your average, just because your average is only 199 doesn't mean you're a terrible bowler. And obviously he's a very good bowler, and he might be bowling on tough lane conditions. That's a 5-bagger for him.
And that reminds me, there's a PBA event going on out Chesapeake Open.
Oh, that's right. They got the extra frame tournament out there.
And speaking of big scores, you got Ryan Simonelli leading, averaging 238.
Wow, that is pretty high.
Marshall Kent, he was in 13th this morning, and he's jumped all the way to 4th with a 1,009 block. So
that's a nice little set. Yeah, I'm missing them to be here this weekend, but next weekend I'm going to try to be bowling against them. They'll be up in Delaware.
In Delaware,
and the weekend after I'll be in Ohio with them. So wish me lots and lots and lots of luck.
Yeah,
I'm going to need it.
Yeah, we'll definitely be watching.
Actually, kind of goes into a question I got from a friend of ours up in Fargo, Mike Morris, who actually bowled on tour for a while back in the 90s.
Okay.
Wants to, do you travel by your motorhome a lot? I know they've made, some notes on TV a while back that you had one and whatnot.
I finally sold my motorhome earlier this year. I haven't used it much the last few years. The tour isn't quite what it used to be, where we would have 30, 35 tournaments a year. Now it's really kind of like 6 or 7 weeks plus the extra frame tournaments, and the extra frame tournaments aren't necessarily conveniently located. This weekend and next weekend kind of are, but they're weekend tournaments also, as opposed to the where we would bowl 4 or 5 days and bowl 4 or 5 days and bowl 4 or 5 days, and there was they would actually set up a tour where you would go from California to Texas to Florida to St. Louis to Ohio to the Northeast and stuff. So it was actually very nice and convenient to have the RV, because I first started with a trailer and then went to the motorhome. But the last 5 or 6 years, I really haven't used it very much, and I just didn't need to have it. It was a little bit of an expense, and finally ended up selling it. I'm traveling by car. I flew out here this week. I don't mind flying. And I don't mind driving, but when it starts getting, I kind of like over 500 miles, I'm going to tend to fly. But if it's going to be a few events in a row, I'll drive. And that's what I did. Like when we had the tournaments in Indiana, I drove up there. I'm actually going to drive up to Delaware. I'm going to stop in Virginia, do a clinic there, Virginia Beach, or Norfolk, at Gary Faulkner's putting up. And then I'm going to stop in Morgantown, West Virginia, after Delaware, and do a couple days there. Larry Lichstein, who used to be the tour ball driller on the truck on the tour back in the old days, he's helping me promote a couple of events in Morgantown, and then I'm going to head to Illinois, Peoria, Illinois. Got Washington, Illinois. Gary Alstad, who's one of the senior bowlers on tour. He's going to I'm going to do a clinic there at his house, and then he's another house that he's got in Indiana. I'm going to do one there on Thursday, and then hit to Ohio for the other extra frame tournament. So make a little money while I'm trying to make some money bowling against the kids.
Yep.
Sure. Kind of leads into the second part of the question, I guess you had too, is what are your thoughts on the way the PBA Tour is going right now?
Well, the biggest thing is that they need sponsors. They just signed a deal with Bowl.com. What is it? The USBC. So
yeah, the Go Bowling. I think
the Go Bowling. So that's a great thing. Hopefully they can connect with some of the sponsors that they have, because without sponsors, it's just tough for bowling to have much money to bowl for. I mean, that's what this tournament is. We got a lot of great sponsors here for this event, and without that, it's just not very effective. Basically you're bowling for your entry fees. That's what most tournaments do, and actually it's entry fees minus a percentage, 25 or 30%. Guys complain about the PBA tournaments where they're quote taking some money out, but they usually bowl for way more than the entry fees are because they're getting sponsors and stuff. So,
sure.
Yeah. Like we're a little bit behind on the thing, but watch over on 16, Caleb Baker threw a shot. That's actually a 10-pin, converted 9.
Oh my, it slid over.
Right here.
Oh, and then he missed it.
Oh wow.
That's not good.
Yeah, 10-pin converted 9. We actually had that too. That happened to Zach Wilkins up in CMA.
Well, I just saw Charlie Tapp last week. He was bowling the PBA 60 tournament and came out early to bowl the regional that they had. And I was talking to him. He left a solid head pin against me once.
Really?
And it's actually on extra frame if you want to dig it up. I bowled in the Senior Masters in 2010, I believe it was, and the head pin slid to the 8-pin spot. I mean, it was high flush, and the head pin just slid and stopped at the 8-pin spot.
Wow.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. And, it's like and Charlie's from the Minneapolis area. That's where he grew up.
Very nice. I'm sure you've seen some crazy things on tour over the years.
I've seen a couple. Pins jump out of the gutter and stand up. It's just, I think they had one, Osku doing that a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think I've seen that video.
But I've seen it happen, where you just, no cameras were on it. And I was crossing with Josh Hamlin when he, at the Team USA trials, when there was the very last shot of the tournament, and we're playing 7th arrow. And he's like, okay, I'm going to try one thing. So he scoots up and gets in front of the ball return and throws the ball. It hits the corner, the gutter corner, bounces into the other lane, bounces out of the gutter, and goes down the lane about 2 miles an hour and gets a strike. And it's actually on. You can actually watch that. It's crazy. It's like, wow. Of course, it didn't count, but it was.
Yeah, that's something to see.
And after he did it, I'm like, we're on. The pair that they had the cameras on. I was like, we got to go dig that up and see. And they found it and they put it back out there. It was pretty funny.
So a question for you here. What would you say is the most challenging format you've seen on tour? There's been formats changed all.
Well, there's a difference between challenging and the formats I don't like are elimination formats, which unfortunately we had a lot of those in early 2000s. Basically because you don't have to bowl the best to win, and you can bowl great and not win. And I just don't like that. It doesn't always reward good bowling. You have to bowl the right guy at the right time kind of thing. And and the Masters was always that format. It was a double elimination format, so it wasn't as bad, but still I just don't care for it. This year I won the Senior Masters. I didn't bowl the best in the tournament. Parker Bone did by far. He led the tournament by a ridiculous amount during qualifying. Of course, today everybody's back to 0, and I don't think he shot less than 700 in his matches. He actually won a match. A guy shot 750. Ted Steichoff shot 768 or whatever, and I think Parker beat him by 1 pin.
Jeez.
And but he had 2 other matches where guys shot 730 or 750 against him, and he only had 720 or 730, and he got knocked out of the tournament. And I shot 700 every set for me, but my opponents didn't shoot 700 every time. I had a couple guys shooting the high 600s and stuff, but and that's what's crazy about that format. You have to bowl well, but you have to get lucky. You can't just, and that's why I like the round robin match play, carry the pins over. A lot of the younger players don't like the round robin with the bonus pins the way it currently is, but I kind of like that because it adds a little bit extra pressure in the 9th and 10th frame to get those extra 30 pins of bonus. That some of the guys don't like it because, well, it might come down to the last game and you're bowling your buddy and he's out of it and you've got a chance to make the show or whatever, and he might throw off for you. Well, most of these guys aren't going to do that. There's some guys that probably will, but you know what? If they modify the format so that the top guys are all bowling each other at the end, you can actually eliminate that kind of a thing. But I just like the pin carrying over, bowling more games. Back in the old days, the U.S. Open used to be the All-Star, and they bowled 100 games. You know, not.
Wow.
I mean, we're only bowling like 50 or 60 games now. They bowled 100 games back in the 40s and 50s and stuff, and 60s, and you know. I'm amazed these young guys are complaining about having to bowl so many games. I'm like, you guys don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the ancient days in the middle 90s, I remember we had back-to-back tournaments. We had 64 games back-to-back weeks. Jeez. So it was 8 games in the morning, 8 games in the evening, 8 games for 4 straight days, 2 weeks in a row. And, you know, and that doesn't include the practice. So, and most of these guys are in way better shape than we were. These guys are in good shape. I mean, the guys on tour, it's a much more athletic game, and I think that might be part of it. It is a much more athletic game than it used to be. These guys got higher rev rates, so the ball harder than they did 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, so if you're a young kid out there, start lifting weights, get in shape.
Well,
you're going to need it.
Yeah,
you're going to
definitely
need it.
Stay in shape. No, there's definitely an advantage to that. I've never been one to be really, really good at that, a little tiny bit, but I've been fortunate that I've never been excessively overweight. I basically weigh as much as I've ever weighed in my life. I'm like 210. I'm 6'2". When I first started on tour, I was 165. So very thin.
Yeah, one of the first pro bowlers that comes to mind when it comes to physical game and, you know, athleticism is Marshall Kent. The guy every time I see him on TV or extra frame, it just seems like he's getting more and more like in shape, stocky wise.
Yeah, so you're younger generation, so I'm thinking Amleto.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Amleto is crazy.
Amleto, and actually we got another guy in the senior tour, Ron Moore, who does a ridiculous regiment. He does, I think, 450 sit-ups every day.
Wow.
And like 300 push-ups every day, or 200. It's ridiculous. I'm like, and it might be 700 sit-ups and 400 push-ups. It's a ridiculous thing, and I guess he does it by a time. He doesn't actually count anymore. He just does it, and you know, for like 30 minutes at a time or 40 minutes at a time. And I'm like crazy. But yeah, he is over in Germany right now. They're having the Senior World Games or Senior Championships. Whoops. Ugh.
Yikes.
That's not good.
Well, it was the last ball in the 10th, so.
Yeah, but that's still not good. That loses 10 pins, and he missed a couple single pins for 170. So that's 30 pins he gave away.
Meanwhile, on the pair to the right, we've got a 256, 258, 236, and a 205. So.
Yeah, there's some good scores out there. And Corey's going to shoot 220 this game.
We did have a 279 over here on the pair to our left, so.
Some impressive scores on a 2.9 to 1 if I'm happy if I shoot 180 anymore.
Those are very good scores.
And once again, we are here at the second annual Midwest Youth Championships. I'm Darren Cini with ndbowling.com, joined by Ken Fletcher and PBA Hall of Famer Walter A. Williams Jr. Again, if you guys could share our stream on Facebook, on social media, that'd be great. Hit the subscribe button. And if you have any questions for Walter, please visit our chat room, or you can send me a message on Facebook. I'll get to it at some point. Again, we want to thank all the great sponsors of this event, which make it possible for the pretty good payout they have going on. That's Bremer Bank.
Pretty good. Ridiculously
very good.
I think that's better than any of our scratch tournaments we get.
Yeah, the
very good
main scratch tournament up in North Dakota, I think it's, $5 for first, and that's 120 guys enter that, so you get some pretty big names up there. So
yeah, they got some great sponsors. That's the only way you get that kind of deal.
Great host center too. If you guys haven't been down to Alexandria and visited the Garden Center, I do recommend stopping by. They have good food here, good drinks, good facility. High ceilings, pretty open, so.
I always say I enjoyed the old garden center for, those people watching that were there. Just one of those unique places, but, this is one of the better bowling centers you can come across, I think.
And again, we'll put this back up since we had some connection issues, but a pretty impressive resume for Mr. Williams here. Over $4.6 million in career earnings, and is that just from the PBA side of it, or does this include all of the PBA 50 and regional stuff?
I think that includes everything, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think it does include everything. It's been because it does. I think it is because it's creeping up a tiny bit, but I haven't won an excessive amount of money in the last few years.
And
my last 6 or 7 years have been a little less than desired, but it's enough to compete to keep me semi-competitive on the national tour. I usually make more than I spend, which is goal number one. And without all my sponsors, like I said, I got Brunswick and Dexter for Driving Skills for Life, and Vice, and now Mongoose Real Bowling Tape. So Real Bowler's Tape. So it's without those sponsors, I probably wouldn't be bowling on tour.
Sure.
And that's just cut and dried. I enjoy competition, but I'm still trying to make a living. I still have bills to pay and stuff, and but I do enjoy competition, and I could probably make more money doing clinics and stuff like that, but I enjoy competition. So like next week I'm going to go to Delaware, and around that I'm going to do some clinics, and then go to Ohio, and around that I'm going to do some clinics. So I honestly might make more money doing the clinics than the actual bowling tournaments, but if I can make some decent money doing that, that's even better. And one of these days I'm obviously going to stop, but I've been saying that for the last 30 years. I'm like, well, 2 more years, 2 more years, 2 more years, and I still see that as 2 more years because I've got some decent sponsors, and I've had some decent finish. I had a second place and a fourth place finish last year on the national tour, which was pretty good, for a guy 57 years old.
Yeah.
This year on the senior tour, I think I was 5th on the senior tour point list, which is not bad because we got like 18 Hall of Famers out there. Well, probably only 10 or 12, but there are a lot of good players out there. It's we got the top 6 or 7 from the money list, the career money list, out there. Well, maybe not. Like Chris Barnes might be in the top 7 or 8 now, but for the most part, we are loaded with talent out there on the senior tour.
Yeah, it was. I think there was one 2-year span where most of the guys all came onto the senior tour, and it seemed like there were a few guys that had a couple years kind of to themselves, and then the rest of the big names like Pete Weber and Norm Duke all came on at once.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Brian Voss is a little older than I am, and I'm 57. And Leto's 55. I think Pete's 54. Norm Duke's about 54, 53. Parker's about 54. So yeah, it was just amazing. All these guys, they're just a couple of years younger than I am, and Mike Albee. He's the same age as I am. He's never bowled a senior tournament. He kind of retired from bowling, and I think he bowls the national tournament, the USBC national. And that's the only thing he bowls. And we're kind of lucky that he doesn't bowl because he was a great bowler. It's just it's hard to express how good a lot of these guys were, and they just enjoyed bowling. Dave Houston, another top player, never bowled a senior tournament. Dave Ferrara's bowled a couple. A lot of talent in the older guys, and then you got a bunch of guys who didn't bowl on tour. You got like Ron Moore and Kenny Parks, and you got Brian LeClaire who just won the Senior Player of the Year. Never did win a national tour title, but definitely capable of winning one. Just fortunately for me, I happened to beat him a couple times for a title. Not so good for him, but just a great player. Ryan Schaefer's now out there, Michael Haugen.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old days, like the old national tour is now on the PBA 50.
I mean, that's, and you look at that and say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we it's kind of like bowling the old days, but with other guys.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I'd be really curious to see what the the watch statistics are on Extra Frame when you get a show like you were just down in Indiana with, 5 Hall of Famers on the show compared to some of the other Extra Frame events that.
Well, it's hard to say because how much publicity gets out about it, but there might be a bunch of replays on it. Pete managing to, do very well in the tournament. He has a big following, obviously.
And again, we are in our cashers round. I want to say this is game number 4.
Yes.
So this is our final game of the cashers round, and then we're going to take the top 2 seeds from I believe there's 3 divisions. There's Boys Open, Girls Open, and then the handicap, correct?
That's the way that I'm understanding it.
Okay,
so then the top 2 seeds, or the top 2 finishers here, will be the top 2 seeds in the step ladder, and then we're going to take, a proportion of the entries to a bracket where they're going to do single elimination to determine the final 2 seeds. So even if you're 8th or 9th, like in the Boys Open division, you still got a chance. Just get every pin to kind of position yourself on that bracket, and then, like you said, it's all about who you face. And
well, the step ladder is, I always call it like the necessary evil in PBA tournaments, because without TV, we weren't bowling for any money, and you wanted to have an exciting format. Well, if you come in and watch.
Are we offline or?
Checking to see that, but without the step ladder, we wouldn't have the exciting finishes that we would normally have. We just went out and showed the last few games of a 42-game tournament. It might be determined and wouldn't be as exciting as if in a step ladder. We got a lot more finality in those matches. Wasn't always absolutely fair, but that's kind of what it was. And over the long run, guys would tend to, do that. Someone asked me, do I play horseshoes? We're offline though, so I don't know.
Well, it's weird because it says we're connected here and more chats coming in, and so if you guys can still see us, let me know, because we're getting some.
I still do play horseshoes. I'm not as good as I used to be, and I'm probably ranked about 15th in the world, maybe 20th, which to me is disappointing. At one time I was world champion, and there's a far cry from what I used to do to what I am doing. And somebody else, and then did my daughter bowl in league? My daughter does not bowl in league. She does bowl a little bit, but she doesn't bowl in league. I'm divorced now, and my ex doesn't bowl, so it's not a big deal to them to bowl about bowling. So if I was home a lot more, I probably would get her in a league. So I do so much traveling, it's hard to do that.
Okay, we do have people saying that they can still see and hear us, so that's good. We're getting saying that the stream is complete. It's offline every now and then, but on my player it's still going. So we do appreciate that. Hopefully there's no dead zone here for you guys, but.
So I got the same player, Kay Morris, asking about what's my opinion on allowing players to drill new equipment once the tournament has started to equalize the playing field. Well, I mean, I've got no problem with that, except for the companies are major sponsors of the tour. So without those companies, we wouldn't have as good a tour as we do have. So by saying you're not going to be allowed to drill those bowling balls is going to kind of cut back on those companies wanting to participate in tournaments. Now, on the tour, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to drill balls in between competition. So that's not really a case on the national tour. There might be some events. I don't know if the U.S. Open is going to do that this year or not. I think what they have done in the past is you can use so many bowling balls, and I think once match play starts, then you can drill some more balls to replace balls or something. You can have a limited field, like 6 or 8 balls or whatever, in your arsenal. And as far as equalizing the field, like I said, the top bowlers are going to be the top bowlers. A lot of the guys starting out and stuff that don't have the sponsors and stuff feel like they're at a disadvantage, and I agree, they are at a slight disadvantage. They don't get as much help, but you know what? Those guys are good for a reason. They're good.
And I've always been a proponent of that. A lot of people say, well, the shot's too easy, the shot's too hard, the bowling balls are too strong. Eventually, the cream rises to the top every time.
Yeah.
We got a question here on two-handed bowling. What's your stance on it? And people see you do it.
Like I said, I said if you can bowl two-handed backwards under your legs with your foot, I don't care. I think what a lot of traditionalists have I think their big argument is it's an easy way to hook the ball. That with one hand takes a lot more finesse and more, it's more technique. You got to learn how to do that, and not so easy to do that. And I think that's what they complain about, really. But the reality is, you can learn how to do that. If you think if you think that's an advantage, learn how to do it and do it better than they do. It's not like I'm saying, well, you can't bowl two-handed. The guys that bowl two-handed say, well, you can't bowl two-handed, only I can bowl two-handed. That's not what they're saying. The same controversy happens left and right-handed. I know a lot of left-handed guys that bowl right-handed, and then they complain about the left-handed bowlers. So I'm like, everybody has the opportunity to bowl left-handed or right-handed. There's no one stopping you from learning how to bowl left-handed. If you think that it's the absolute best way to do it that way. I've seen what happens on tour with the left-handed bowlers. It's almost like a feast or famine kind of thing. I mean, they get it, and then other weeks they have absolutely nothing. And it's, I personally kind of like being able to grind out, when I was bowling well, to almost guaranteeing a check every week. On the senior tour, I've missed one check for the 7 years I've been bowling on the senior tour. It's a little less that way on the left side. Even as good as Earl Anthony was, and I still consider Earl Anthony the best ever. And he didn't always get the checks, but he was there. He was very competitive when he got there, and he was doing the things he needed to do. He was on TV a lot. High percentage.
Okay, well, let's take a quick look here at our bowlers. We got Brennan and Briley Howe.
I think Briley's on the Junior Team USA.
Yes. Yep, Team USA 2017. He's out of Faribault, Minnesota. 5 300s and 825. He runs a pro shop, so if you're down in the Faribault area, go visit Briley. Brennan Howe, also from Faribault. Motive staffer. Made top 64 at the Masters.
Wow.
He's actually a staffer?
Impressive. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
And they have so many different classifications of staff, so we don't know the specific for Brennan, but
I'm always kind of amazed when youth bowlers are on a staff. I'm kind of got a different feel or a different viewpoint of professional bowling and amateur bowling. Amateur bowling to me is bowling for no money. I mean, even these kids are bowling for money. It's scholarship money, but they are bowling for money. So in one sense, they're almost not amateur. And when they talk about the guys who are not PBA members being amateur bowlers, I kind of say, well, that's not true. They aren't amateur bowlers because they bowl for money. If you want to be an amateur, don't bowl for money. That would be a true amateur. But they're bowling for money, and they just choose not to be members of the PBA because they can bowl events that PBA bowlers can't bowl, and which I think is a shame. I think discriminating against guys who are trying to make a living to say you can't bowl an event, to me, is just bad.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day that won't happen, but it probably won't. Whoa, got that a bit right. That hooked up, but not enough.
Stream ended 6 minutes ago, apparently. Well, this really hasn't happened in our 5 years of doing this, so it says we're still streaming here. We got a good connection. We got everything's working on this side of it. It's a YouTube thing. Just not
hopefully
working.
It's YouTube. Of course, you talk to them, they'll say it's your problem.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it just keeps going back and forth. Good and no good. Good, no good. Yeah, it's been doing that ever since we started. It's good and no good at the same time. Yeah, I guess I don't know what the case is. I don't know if it's up or connected there. Okay, well, we're going to try this. Now that it's gone, let's try something